Good evening, everybody. Today we'll be speaking to Cincinnati bassist Freekbass. Freekbass has been a long-time friend and collaborator of funk legend Bootsy Collins, has worked and toured with guitar hero Buckethead, and is currently on tour promoting his new album, All the Way This, All the Way That. Woo!
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you first meet Bootsy?
This is probably like late 90s, early 2000s. I was just starting to get my name around town as a bass player around Cincinnati a little bit. And Mudbone had heard about me. So he had me kind of start playing bass on some of his demos. So Mudbone, along with Michael Hampton, Kid Funkadelic from P-Funk, were doing a track together. And he said, hey, would you like to come play bass on this track? And I was like, yeah, of course. That sounds awesome. And I said, just off the cuff, I said, well, where we're recording it at? We're just going to do it what we normally do, or is anybody producing it or engineering? He's like, oh yeah, Bootsy's going to engineer and produce it, and we're going to do it at his house. Just cut off the cuff, not even say anything. I was like, and I was kind of like,
oh,
wait,
shit.
What did you say? And
yeah.
So next thing I know, that later that week, he's like, yeah, just meet me up, Bootsy's. He gave me his address. It was like driving to the Bat Cave for the first time. I was super nervous, of course.
I bet.
And pulled up, and then so that's how I met Bootsy for the first time by way of Mudbone.
And what was the first impression when you met him?
It's funny because the first I remember knocking on the studio door, and I was I felt like I was about like this tall.
Yeah.
And Bootsy, when he opened the door, he looked like he was a giant. And
with the hat
I just
on.
remember him no, I don't think he had the hat on that day. He was kind of more in kind of engineer studio. I mean, he was still kind of Bootsy. Bootsy's always Bootsy all the time. He's one of those people that he just exudes that person all the time, even when he's kind of on the low pro side of things. But he answered the studio door. It was his old studio where he used to record on his property, and had a huge smile on his face, and invited me into the studio, and immediately we got right to it, and he had me plug in, and he had a massive bass rig in the studio in here. So literally I plugged in, and I remember just playing one note, and it shook the whole studio. I remember just hitting that one note, just barely hitting it on my bass, and it was like the whole studio was rumbling, and I was like, okay, this is going to be a good session.
Yeah. So what was he like to jam with? Did he get in there and jam with you?
Well, he actually said, he obviously was engineering, so that was kind of his main thing at first. And then during the course of the session, he actually a couple times went over and played drums too as well. He had a drum set in the session too as well, and kind of sat there. And once we kind of got the groove going, and the main focus that day obviously was to get down the bass track for the Hendrix thing for P-Vine Records. But so we connected, and a couple weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later, he got in touch and sent me a message and said, hey man, why don't you, come out to the studio, and, we'll start writing some songs together. And then, so I started going out to his studio, and we would, just sit there for hours before we even actually played any music. And we would, for the first 2 or 3 hours, we'd just sit there and talk, and he would just tell me about the music business, and kind of what to watch out for, and just kind of some of his experiences, living in the music business. And it was amazing. And then we would get into recording, and he would show me how to get around in the studio, and how to work the board. And so it was so
like insightful.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was so above him. I thought when I made Bootsy, you learn all these really cool bass tricks, and that was, the bass part of it was part of it, but more than anything else, it was about having a career in the music business, how to survive in the music business, how to record, how to produce a live record versus a studio album, just so much knowledge. Bootsy is definitely from the school of teach a man to fish, and he'll fish for a lifetime, as opposed to just giving him the fish. And that's what he did with me. And it's it's memories and also knowledge that I'll have forever.
I bet,
something it's invaluable.
And was it through those sessions that he actually gave you the name?
Yeah, it was kind of funny because the first session, the session I was talking about earlier, it was me and a guitar player went there, and the guitar player who I was actually playing in a band. I used to tour in a band called Shag right when I got out of high school, which is my first funk band, and uh, the his name was, we were both had the same name, both Chris, and so I think he had probably trouble actually remembering our names because he just met us and we're both named Chris. So so I was actually in the studio kind of, and he started calling. He's like, "Hey, yeah, Chris bass," and then Chris guitar, and then the next thing I knew, I was over there kind of messing around with some of his bass effects on my bass. He's like, "Man, you got that freaky thing going on the bass." And then as the session went on throughout the day, he's like, "Hey, Freak, come over here and do this," and blah, blah, blah. And, "Hey, Freekbass, come over here." And then everybody within the room, all the other people that were working in the studio, the next thing I knew, everybody started just calling me Freak or Freekbass. And then it just kind of stuck. And that's
Like a
kind
light
of
bulb.
what yeah, and that's kind of what we went with. It seemed to fit the vibe.
So how did you then meet Buckethead? Was that through Bootsy?
Yeah, yeah, that was her boot as well. And then Bucket and I did some shows together as well too, kind of in the same time. But I was finishing up. It was my second album. Bootsy was producing it, and there was a track we had, and he's like, there's a track that I think Buckethead would sound really good on, and so
That's
he
the
wanted to run.
always here, that one.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one exactly. He said he's got this really cool guitars thing that he thinks it'll work really well with that, and that was off the Air Fresher Underground, and yeah, so that's how we started kind of working together. Then after that,
So
we
did was were you actually in the studio together when you cut the track, or separate?
we were separate when we did that track. Yeah, he did his track out in California, and then and then we did the rest of it here out at Bootsy's house here in Cincinnati. So, and then just kind of flew in the tracks in, and then we ended up shooting a video actually as well too, which Buckethead made a cameo in,
That
and
was Bootsy's birthday show, I think.
yeah. Oh well, there was that was, I forgot about that. That was a whole different thing too as well. No, well, the video, we did a video for "Always Here," that song as
Ah,
well.
okay.
Yeah, but then a few years later, it was Bootsy's. It was Bootsy. There was a show there's a university here in Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, and they were doing a big show for Bootsy's birthday, and so Bootsy had all these people come in and play, and I was one of them, and Buckethead was too as well. Buckethead had already been using. There's a song of mine called "Minute to Forever" that
Yeah,
had
yeah.
been using for, like, when he does his nunchuck and
Yeah.
breakdance thing that he uses for the show. So we kind of went back and forth that way a little bit, because I sent him that track because he asked about using that. And
So he did ask you about using it, because I was going to ask whether he asked or.
yeah, well, I guess he had started using it. I didn't heard about it yet. And then we did the Bootsy show you were talking about, and that's the first time we actually met face to face. And he said, he said, "Hey, there's a song of yours I've started using called 'Minute to Forever' that I used for part of my show. Would you mind if I continue to use it?" And of course I was like, "Of course, yeah, yeah." And then so I got to find and see how he used it, and the song worked perfectly for what he was doing, because I started getting emails and stuff like, "I think I heard your song at a Buckethead show the other night," and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, because I know that's a lot of your fans. That's where they come from. Is from Buckethead using that song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it started showing up, and like, at the time, this is before Spotify and stuff, but it started like, I started seeing it show, like that song started getting all these plays, like on, I noticed on iTunes and stuff, it started like showing up higher in the charts on iTunes. And I'm like, wonder why it's starting to get its play. And it was because Buckethead was using it and people were getting turned on to it through his show, I guess. And that's when he was touring quite a bit at that point too. It was right after he got finished doing the Guns N' Roses gig, and so he was really kind of out there hitting it pretty hard at this point. And
Yeah, because I think when he was on your first album, he was actually in Guns N' Roses.
yeah, I guess he was at that point. Yeah, and so ironically, so was Richard Fortus, who is still currently in Guns N' Roses, who we just got done doing another Headtronics run, and actually Richard Fortus, the guitar player from Guns N' Roses, who joined when Buckethead joined Guns N' Roses, just did that tour with us too as well. So there's another weird little way that the weird dots connect in the music business too as well. But yeah, now it's coming all back to me. I remember actually, the Bootsy show was actually after I'd already done some live dates with, that wasn't the first time Buck and I had met, because we had already done some live dates together. We went out and did, I think we played a show in Cincinnati, Detroit, and a couple in Michigan together.
Yeah, I think it
And
was 2006, if I remember right.
That is correct. Yep. And then not long after that was the Bootsy birthday show. And then at the end of the show, we all had a big jam session together on stage. Buckethead, myself, Catfish, Bootsy, of course, and it was amazing. Yeah, Peanut from 311 called him.
They put that on DVD, right?
Yeah. Yep. It was called the Sliver Shiver. It was our first live DVD. Yeah, it was our first live DVD, and yep, and that was the show. You got it.
So when you were doing shows with Bucket, did you actually travel together or separate?
We were traveling in separate, we had our whole van and trailer with our thing too as well. So we would just, we would meet at the venues, yeah, for the shows, yeah.
So did anyone ever kind of say about his privacy to you or anything like that? Because obviously he's pretty, reclusive and private and.
Not really. I mean, the first time I met Bucket, actually, Bootsy brought me to, Bucket was opening for this band called Particle, which were kind of like a Jamtronica band, which again, the keyboard player from Particle is Steve Mollitz, who we started Headtronics with. So, again, small music business, so small sometimes. Yeah. It really is. And so Bootsy brought me down. Bucket was playing in Louisville. He was actually opening the whole tour for Particle. It was right when this is right after Bucket left Guns N' Roses, I think. And so he brought me we went to the hotel to meet Bucket. And when I met Bucket, he was just, just regular, Bucket, no mask, no, he was just, wandering around the lobby, and we kind of talked for a second. So it was pre-show. And so
how was he when you spoke to him? Relaxed?
Just soft. Yeah, totally relaxed, soft spoken. We were just speaking in the lobby, and he was just saying thanks for coming out to the show, and it was very, very chill, And every time I met Buck, even at the Bootsy thing a few years later, when we did that too as well, it was very, very chill as well. So it wasn't any kind of weirdness or anything at all.
So how did you then hook up for the next album? Because I think you've done another song with you, the Bang Bang Bionic.
Oh yeah, Big Bang Bionic.
Big Bang Bionic,
exactly. Yeah, that was so Bootsy's engineer is a guy named Toby Donahue. Toby and I actually a few years later ended up doing a side project together, but he was Bootsy suggested that I use him for engineering my next album, which he's an amazing engineer. So we used that on there too as well. And same kind of thing. Bucket had this really cool guitar riff that we both felt would be really good for this Freekbass song, which is the song which ended up being Big Bang Bionic, which is off the Junkyard Waltz album.
Yeah.
And
which is one of my favorite tracks.
Oh, well, thank you. That's actually done with Mike Gordon from Fish. Actually, him and I did that song together. So we had this, Bucket had this really cool riff, and so he sent it over, and I started kind of creating this bass line around the riff, and then created this kind of melody around it. And we had this hip hop artist that came in and laid some vocals down and with a hook, and Toby did some of his scratching and some of his producing on it, and that's how that song all came to be.
So do you prefer to mix it that way, where you've got different pieces coming in, or do you prefer to all be in the studio at the same time?
I ultimately prefer to be on the studio all at the same time. I mean, that's a cool way of doing stuff, and it's kind of the world we live in, and it's a different way of producing, and I like that too as well. And it's but ultimately, like the way we did this new album that I have out right now, which is All the Way This, All the Way That, the whole thing was recorded live in the studio, straight to tape, actually real tape, not digital tape, but actually real analog tape. And if we do a whole take, and if someone made a mistake in the last 10 seconds of it, we'd go back and recut the whole thing again, all together. And that's, to me, that's, all those funk records that we've been talking about through the course of this interview. That's the kind of stuff.
Just all through jamming and working it out.
Yeah, working it out, and and especially with playing a bass and player and a drummer, like so many of our fills were both bouncing off of each other. It's not like, so if a drum beat's already done, you can't really do that. You can work around it, but when you're actually doing fills and stuff based off of what the other person is doing, that's where the really specialness happens. And all those amazing classic funk records, that's the way those were done. So that's definitely my favorite way to do it. Plus, when it goes to recreating these songs live, it makes it super, a lot of times you'll do something in the studio and it sounds great and you're like, okay, now how are we going to recreate this live? But when you do it live, how you do it in the studio, it's like, oh, well, just learn it like we did in the studio, and the songs sound the same
Just
live as they
jam
do
on
in the
it.
studio. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when was the last time you seen Bucket? That was 2006?
No, I'm trying to think when the last time I saw, but I've seen him since then. I think it might have been at Boots. There was a session a few years after that. I want to think we might have done a show together since then, like a festival. I think we played like a festival. We were on the same festival, music festival bill, like more like 2010, 2011. But it's been a few years for sure. Yeah.
So where would you rank him as far as musicians go?
Oh my gosh. I mean, he's one of the best musicians. The thing is, a lot of people know Bucket for his amazing guitar licks and stuff, but he's such a rhythm machine too. I mean, that's my favorite. That's my favorite aspect of his playing is he's his rhythm guitar playing is my favorite. I mean, I love his lead stuff too as well, and that's amazing and inspiring to hear. But it's his what he can do with rhythm and the rhythms that he creates too as well. I mean, I love the project he did with Bernie, the Bucket Full of Bernie Brains with him and
Oh
Les
yeah, yeah.
is such a really cool project, and it's just really because he really got to shine in that because everybody kind of created this whole big rhythmic force, and he was part of that rhythmic force.
Yeah, and Praxis with Bootsy too. That was another one.
Oh, of course, yeah. And then what's amazing about that Praxis album, if you listen to that album, it sounds like it just came out last week.
Yeah, I
It doesn't
love it.
sound like it was. It's so groundbreaking and fresh and original. It doesn't, it's you could play it for someone. You're like, hey, heard this new album that just came out, and they'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds really. And it even still today sounds like it still is ahead of its time.
Yeah, this is like a musician's album. If you're a musician, you'll definitely love it 100%.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt about that.
So how did you guys do the James Brown tribute later on, quite a few years later? How did that come about?
Oh, for the James Brown tribute tour.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was super, super incredible. Well, obviously after James passed, I think it was the year after Bootsy had the idea where he wanted to reunite all the original JBs. So he invited myself out, he invited Buckethead out, he invited Chuck D from Public Enemy, African Bambaataa, and everybody would come up and do a 10 to 15 minute set kind of in recognition of James Brown, whether it be some of their own songs that influenced them, that made their sound, whatever the case may be. And so we did, and it was a really big night. It was an amazing night. I still remember one of the memories that's etched in my brain of that opening night of the James Brown tribute tour was standing on the side of the stage, and it was myself, Buckethead, and Chuck D, and the band JB's Went Into Superbad by James Brown, and you would have thought we were three young girls at a Justin Bieber
Yeah.
concert. I mean, it was like even Bucket was showing more emotion than I've ever seen him show,
Yeah, I bet.
and Chuck D was losing it. It was really wild to see, and as I was too as well. And because it was so incredibly funky, and just like with Bootsy with getting hooked up with James Brown the way he did, it's kind of the same situation with me years later, hooking up with Bootsy and getting involved with that's how I met obviously Buckethead, obviously Bernie Worrell,
Yeah, that was going to be
Catfish.
my next one, Bernie. How you met Bernie?
Yeah, so Bernie was actually Bernie was at Bootsy's. Bernie had already played on one of my albums, but it was more of a thing. I just sent him some tracks of some more existing songs I already had done, and he just kind of had some stuff on top. But the really exciting part was Bernie was out at Bootsy's, and Bootsy called me up. He's like, Bernie's in town. He's got a few extra days here. Would you like to have him come over and do some recording stuff with you? So Bernie actually came to my house and actually stayed with me for almost a week and lived at our house, which was I remember being upstairs and saying like, oh my gosh, Bernie's Worrell's downstairs sleeping right now. It was like the weirdest thing.
What was he like as a housemate?
Oh, he was wonderful. He was great. Well, we were in the studio. I mean, it was like the second we woke up to the time we went to sleep, almost the whole time we were in the studio. So it was that, and just getting to work with him from the beginnings of songs, not like songs that were already done, but like for the writing process, and to see how his mind worked. Bernie is the word genius is used a lot in this business that we're in, but Bernie, I mean, that guy it was a genius and is a genius and
Yeah, I mean,
he when
everybody
he
I've spoken to says the same, like just how good he was, like underappreciated, really.
Oh, it's amazing. And he would take the simplest idea and would make something unique about it. You know, it wouldn't have to be some really super busy line. It could be two or three notes and he would make it some very unique, and just the way his mind worked in terms of the simplicity of a melody. And it just taught me so much again about writing and producing. He would let me plug into he had all kinds of crazy effects that his Moog keyboards would go through. He's like, "Hey, Freekbass, why don't you come and plug your bass and all this stuff and see what kind of tones we would get." And we would get some of the coolest tones together. And then him and I would be playing. You know, Bernie's one of my favorite bass players. I know he's a keyboard player, but he's one of my favorite bass players as well. Even that he's playing keys, he's wrote some of the best bass lines ever. So as a bass player, there were many songs where we would be tracking, and him and I would both be playing bass simultaneously, and I would be kind of bouncing off what he was doing. So,
And you've done a
and
couple
then
of shows together. How were the shows?
Oh, it was amazing. Well, we did a whole tour together. I have a side project called Headtronics that I do. It's myself, DJ Logic, and there's a keyboard player. His name's Steve Mollitz, and he wasn't able to do this leg of the tour. So we asked Bernie if he would go out with us, and we did about a week and a half out, mostly festivals and club dates. And so, yeah, so that was pretty amazing too, as well. And I got to, yeah, you know, whenever Bernie would come through on tour, I would go in and sit in with him. That's actually the drummer I play with now, Rico Lewis from P-Funk, who's my drummer. Him and I met from playing with Bernie. Had both Rico and I up to sit in on Red Hot Mama for a show they were doing, and that's how Rico and I met, and we knew that we could play together, and so that's kind of how that whole thing happened as well.
So just meeting so many greats and hanging around and just learning.
Yeah, the funk circle, it's a pretty small, there's a lot of folks, but it's a pretty small circle. Everybody kind of knows everybody. And especially in the P-Funk side of the funk world. And so yeah, that you know, everybody's works with everybody, and it's a pretty neat place to be in for sure.
Yeah, and everyone's always so talented when they come from that group. Like whoever works with each other, they suddenly become better than they were before. It's like it just rubs off.
That's a great analogy. You're totally right about that too, as well. That's the way you know, you work with people, and you again, it's just like funk osmosis, you could call it. That's be a good name for an album, actually. But that's the way it feels. It's you just kind of start feeling what their groove is, and get some of their ideas, and they start permeating into what you're doing.
So when did you start working on songs for the new album?
Well, we started releasing like within the last year. We started releasing some singles first, and we did a song called "Stepping Out of Line," a song called "Love in Your Pocket."
So what led to you putting it out on vinyl? Because I know that that's something Buckethead's doing as well. Do you think vinyl's coming back?
Yeah, I mean that's Color. Well, Color Red, the label, that's all they do. They just do, besides digital and streaming, they don't even release CDs. They just do vinyl. So what they did is they flew out me and the whole band out to, this is back in February, not too long ago, and we were there for about 4 or 5 days, and we would get up every morning, you know, 8, 9 in the morning, start writing music from 9 to about noon or one. By noon or one, we're starting to arrange a song, and by 3 or 4 that day, we're actually recording it, going straight to tape and recording these songs. So we did like 5 or 6 songs in about 4 days. It was pretty amazing and yeah, it was like literally from 9 a.m. till, you know, midnight that night. It was just nonstop banging in the studio, and it
Not
was
like a Chinese democracy taking 13 years or whatever it was.
no. It was bing bang boom, and that to me that was what was Eddie was producing this stuff too. He's an amazing producer, and that's really what makes this album. I mean, you always feel excited about a new album when you release it, but this one feels different than anything I've done before. It really feels like a culmination of, that's why it's called All the Way This, All the Way That. One side of the album is kind of more the Color Red, more kind of retro feeling stuff. All the Way This, All the Way That, which is the second side, was kind of more the futuristic side of the funk. And so this is kind of the culmination of everything I've done my whole career. And
How much did Sammy add to it? Because it feels like a natural fit, you two, you and Sammy Garrett.
Yeah, she's amazing. We met. She tours in a band also called Turquoise. They're out of New York, out of Brooklyn, New York, and we do the same touring circuit. And Turquoise would occasionally have me up to sit in on their sets if we were playing a festival together, if they were coming through Cincinnati. And so her and I just started getting to talking, and I always loved the way she sounded. A lot of the songs that I were writing now felt like they needed more female vocals. Some of the stuff, and so when I was working with Atal for some of the singles, at first we had the song "Love in Your Pocket," and Atal was like, "Man, we really need to get some female vocals on this song." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And I was like, I know this lady named Sammy Garrett who I do some stuff. She's an amazing singer, and so I gave her a shout, and then she ended up recording the vocals on that, and that sounded so good. I was like, "Man, we should do another one." And then we just kept working, and then as we got into Color Red, Eddie actually, his band and Turquoise did a whole tour together. They had the same booking agent, so he knew Sammy really well too, as well from his side of stuff. So we
Small
just
world again.
yeah, small world again, and we just started connecting the dots, and then now we're doing shows together all the time too as well. So she's a big part of the Freekbass and the Bump Assembly equation now, and she's she's a star in her own right, and it's really great.
So is it going to be a permanent thing, or you're not sure yet?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a permanent thing for sure. Yeah, she's part of the Bump Assembly, which is the Freekbass band, and she's a big part of it. And I have another lady by the name of Riley Commissar, who's actually also on the album. That when Sammy's on tour with Turquoise, Riley will go out and tour with us too as well, and she's an amazing singer too as well. But when Sammy, we're just fitting in. Our agents are talking to each other whenever we just try to fit in the dates when she's not on tour with Turquoise, and make it all happen.
So what did Bootsy think of the record? Because I know I saw you on Twitter. You played the record for him. How was that?
It was amazing. Yeah, when the day the album got released, which was May 31st, we wanted to do something really, really special. So we called up Boot and said, "Hey, can we wanted to have almost like a listening party for the world to listen to." So we went live on both Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for a live Facebook feed. And Bootsy came over to a house, and we played the album, and I got to kind of play the album for him. He's all the tools that I learned to help create this album and write this album. He was such a huge, huge part, as we've been talking through this whole interview about my career. And it was like, showing, wanted to show the guy that kind of helped raise me in this music business, kind of what I was doing now. And so he came over. Yeah, exactly. And again, another moment that'll be etched in my brain forever. It was really special. He was really digging it and really digging the sounds. And yeah, I'm still pinching myself. That wasn't that long ago. That was only a week and a half ago. So it's like I'm still kind of riding high off of that right now.
Any plans to do anything together? Because I know he said he's stopped doing live tours now, I think, because of his shearing. But any plans to do an album or a guest spot or anything?
Yeah, I mean, we're always working together. Bootsy lives like 15 minutes from me, and we're always talking on a fairly regular basis. And he's got so many, Bootsy's such a entrepreneur type mind. He's always got so many things happening all the time. So I know him and I will be working on something here. So we don't have anything really set right now, but it's just a matter of time before we end up doing something again together here really soon. Once I get through this album cycle, I'm sure we'll definitely be making some new sounds together. There's no doubt about that.
So talking about some of the videos that you filmed, where did the Freako doll come from?
Oh yeah, Freak Row. Yeah, well, Freak Row, it was a concept. Angie Wilson, who actually is my manager, and she also does a lot of the creative stuff that you see. She had this idea there's a song off the album called Freakonomicron, which is kind of almost a signature kind of song that we did. And she had this idea, this concept of creating this Freak Row character. And Freak Row now is actually, he's got his own Instagram site. He's got a little fan base. We're actually like Freak Rows. We actually sell Freak Row as a merch item.
Yeah, I've seen the plush dolls. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So he's almost becoming. Maybe we'll give him a little try to get him a guest appearance on Sesame Street or something here sometime soon. But yeah, so
crazy how small things like that take off.
It is crazy, and people like, it's amazing. We played up in Columbus, Ohio last week, and we had a freaker there, and someone like had been like they were super excited about coming there to get the freak row so they could bring one home, and it's neat. He's starting to get a freaker will have a bigger fan base than me. We'll hear one of these days here soon. Yeah.
How did the video for Your Love Is Always on Time come about? Because you shot in the Cincinnati Museum, right?
Yeah, well, Jenny Chacon, who is a amazing film director, she heard the song and she had this concept for it. And we wanted this song, like originally we were thinking about doing something where the band was in it, like, you see in a lot of music videos. And then I started thinking about, that song to me had this real timeless feel to it. So I was like, can you think of something where necessarily I don't have to be in it or any of the band has to be in it, to where it's more, because I was worried about if we were in it, part of it would people thinking about us and stuff. I wanted it to be just about the song. And yeah, so she came up with this whole thing about these two workers in the art museum that had this kind of fantasy throughout it was filmed in the Cincinnati Art Museum over an
How did they
afternoon.
get permission for that? Because museums normally hate anything you film inside there.
They were super intense, and so Angie and Jenny had to get in touch with the Cincinnati Art Museum, and they had to go in there before they opened. So I think they opened normally like 11 a.m. Eastern Standard, and they went in there like 8 in the morning and filmed a big. Some of it was when it was already open, but the majority of it, the first 3 to 4 hours, all filmed before the doors were open. And of course, they had people there watching every little move that everybody made, make sure they didn't bump into anything or
Yeah,
not,
yeah, I
running
bet.
everything. But yeah, but I mean, the end result was pretty amazing. I'm super, super excited about that video, the way it turned out.
So, any favorite road stories that you've got from throughout the years, or any bloopers, on stage bloopers, or anything?
Well, I have one of those probably at least once a night. It seems like there was at the end of our show. I always kind of at the end of the set, we kind of do the big swell, and it's like 2, 3, 4, and I jump up to kind of end the show.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were playing a music festival, and it was outside, and they had these rails that they had the lights hanging on, and so it was the end of the set, and I usually kind of always look up to get the lay of the land, where I wasn't paying attention because I was so immersed in the music, and I jumped up straight up as hard as I could, straight up in the air, and jumped straight up into one of the rafters, and it
Oh.
literally knocked me out, and I fell straight in the stage. And all I remember, like 30 seconds, and it was right at the end of the set, so people in the audience thought it was part of the show. They thought I
Yeah.
was part of the thing, me falling straight to the stage. And all I remember is a bunch of people kind of standing over me, like, "Are you okay?" Like, it was probably 5 or 10 seconds later. It was like in the cartoons, the little birdies and the stars
Yeah,
kind
the
of
Looney
floating around my
Tunes.
head, like total Looney Tunes. And I got up and I had blood all over because I just hit my head, and it really didn't even hurt that much, believe it or not, but it looked probably pretty raunchy. But that was a pretty crazy road story. Yeah, just like hurting yourself for the
For the
you get so much
cause.
adrenaline for the cause. You get so much adrenaline in you, you don't even realize what
Yeah, I
you're
bet.
what you're doing sometimes. And that's definitely one that the funk will do that to you. The funk will knock you out.
The funk will funk you up.
That's right. That's why Knuckle Sandwich is the first title track off the new album. Yeah.
So there's no actual footage of that, you hope, out there?
There's probably some iPhone footage probably floating around somewhere of it.
It
I'm just
must
not
be
sure who has it.
somewhere. Someone will have it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been really nice talking to you. Thanks for taking the call. It's much appreciated. And to hear all the stories, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, I appreciate everything you're doing, and thanks for having me. And I can't wait to, once you get it up and live, we'll spread it with all our folks. And you have an amazing weekend, and it's been great talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your night over there, and I'm going to keep on with the drinking the coffee here, keeping the day moving forward.